Hello. We will get started in a second. We're just kind of working some more stuff out. Hello, everyone. This is Running Robert, and we are going to be talking about some stocks today. So, we are looking at the best small cap pharma stocks to own in 2026. Today is the 3rd of December, and really, we're going to go through 3 top companies and then kind of go through the best of the rest. And we're going to be doing a really detailed analysis on it. So, that's kind of where we're going to be going with it. So, let's go ahead and get started. Disclaimer is I'm going to tell you if I own the stock, what I bought it at. I'm an amateur investor, and any advice given should be followed up by your own due diligence, and any information given is valid for today, the 3rd of December. And this slideshow will not be updated, but as always, we get news on something, I will put a new slideshow up for it. So, first thing, just to hit on this very much, I'm going to talk about my investment strategy because that will kind of lead to where I am going here. So I buy small cap pharma stocks at low prices with the goal of 100% gains. I sell half my shares when I hit this target, which has already occurred this year with Queens, Ironwood, Goss, Elite, and Eno. I'll hold the second half until there are time that there might be a better investment, and I've doubled my portfolio this year, so something's working. So the stocks listed here will be from the highest chance of success to the lowest, and so let us get into our first company, which is Lipizene. So Lipizene is interesting because someone on a previous video said, I haven't heard of that company since 2020. And I'm like, that makes perfect sense because that stock was something that was, a few hundred million market cap, looking good, just got approval for a drug. And it's just been in the pharma death spiral since then. So what are we looking at? So right now, it's a small company with a market cap below 20 million. In all honesty, I believe the market cap will reach 50 million before the data for PPD, which is postpartum depression, in the second quarter of 2026. If it hits that, that's a $9 to $10 stock. So obviously, pretty positive. I have also, I bought several groups of them. My first buy was at 258 and the second one at 327. There will be a third buy coming up when Mist Pharmaceuticals, which has the PDUFA coming up this month, hopefully works, and we'll go from there. Company has 15 million in cash and reported a net loss of only 3.2 million. So The company has a phase 3 trial that's being completed. They said they'll get their data in the second quarter of 2026. Great. That's 3 quarters away. So at their current net loss, which is about 9 million, they should still have 6 million at the end of quarter 2, which should give them a good chance to have some money. They're not going to immediately need money, so they can maybe make a good deal, but we can go from there. So sales. So there's another drug on the market for PPD. It is marketed by Biogen. And if you looked at it last year, it was poor. Like sales were very poor. You know, we were really thinking like, maybe this is only a $100 million market. Like, you know, not very happy with it. But in this case, we're looking at what the sales have done over the last 3 quarters. So 27.6 in quarter 1, and then it jumped to 46.4 in quarter 2 and 55.3 in quarter 3. So you can all of a sudden see that huge jump of what's going on. So I'm expecting the quarter 4 to be over 60 million. With the revenue continuing to increase, we know that the market is at least 250 million total. Like if it hits 60, we're going to be pretty close. It's going to work. We're going to like it. Biogen, in their charts, they suggested it could be $1 billion drug. Maybe a little optimistic, but again, we're going to look at the numbers for 250, 500, and 750, just so you know. The company has stated that it wants to partner the drug in quarter 1. And just so you know, Sage, they got bought out, so they don't report anymore, but they recorded revenues of 13.8 in quarter 1 and 23.2 in quarter 2. So that is great when you look back just a couple slides and say, wait, this company only spent 3 million total for the company. That is pretty solid. So the drug versus drug. So zuranolone or Zurzuvae takes days to work, and it's on a 14-day treatment. Overall, it is safe, but extra caution is need to be taken with some patients. Lipocine's drug takes hours to work and is only a 2-day treatment. Safety data has been completely clean so far. We expect more data in quarter 1, 2026. The biggest thing that we're looking at here, it is really easy to see if the numbers hold up. Lipocine 1154 would be the superior drug. A 2-day treatment without any safety risk compared to a 14-day treatment with some minor safety risk. And I'm not saying the drug is unsafe. I am saying that there's extra caution that needs to be taken. So, and that's something that hospitals don't want to have to worry about. So what would really drive this stock higher? And so we're going to be looking at math. And like I said, I told you we're going to be looking at 3 points, 250, 500, and 750 million. And we're going to assume at worst case, we're going to be able to get half the market. Looking at it, we should be pretty good to get more than half the market. But we're going to have to see. So we're going to look at 120, 250, 370 for pretty much that. And that's half, half, and half is what I'm looking at. We're getting 50% market, capturing 50% of the market. So a partner comes along and gives us just 15%. So that is a fairly standard deal rate here. And that's not counting any upfront cash or anything like that. At, $250 market, we take half. 15% will give us 18.75 million. So now I think I might have your attention a little bit because in all honesty, like it looks good to have that going on there because we're spending 12, 13 million and we're going to be making almost 19. And then it only gets better. Like I said, if it becomes a $500 million market, we take half. We are looking at $37.5 million per year. And then of course, 375 would be 56. Again, the company's total expenses last year were less than 12 million. And this was a phase 3 drug in a small trial in there. So a lot of good stuff going on. At the lowest amount of cost, it'd be easy to cover the current cost of the company. This is not factoring, of course, any upfront cash, approval cash, any kind of regulatory cash, anything like that. So overall, very solid for what we're looking at. Now, of course, there are some pitfalls. 100%. We will have to talk about the various parts of this too. So we're looking to play it safe because PPD is a fairly hard drug to treat. And we have a smallish phase 3 trial going on, which means the drug might not be able to separate enough to call it statistically significant. That's that p-value under 0.05. That is a big deal. So again, why we're thinking about this, the company would still probably raise cash on data. If the data was good, we could expect the stock to be over $10, which is going to limit the amount of shares that we have. The company only has like 5.5 million shares at the moment. We do know from other drugs, sales into hospitals are slow. So each company has a VAC, a value analysis committee. These can be extremely slow for uptake, 6 months, and in Biogen, in some cases, up to a year plus before they started seeing sales. So we still need to get to approval, which is the earliest is going to be 2027, which again, we need to get some cash in between there. So, but, and really, I'm bringing up the bearish parts of the company so that we can say, hey, why do we want to take out our initial investment? It's at 20 million. If it gets to a $40 million market cap, we sell half. We still have half our shares, but at the same point, we are not taking any risk. And that is really the goal of what I try to do is I want to avoid risk as much as possible. And at the same time, be able to make money. And so that's kind of what we're looking at with this. So that is Lipizene. Obviously, it is probably the top stock I have at the moment just because of its market cap being so low. But we are okay. And we are moving on now to our second stock, which is Grace Therapeutics. It's another microcap with a $50 million market cap. I bought it at $3. I believe the company will be worth $100 million before the PDUFA on 23 April 2026. It is for, I'm not going to be able to say all this, brain hemorrhaging. Very easy to diagnose. So that was one of the things when someone comes in having some kind of issue, first thing they do get is a CT scan. They can they will be able to diagnose this right off the bat. We know that most CT scans are done pretty much as the patient enters who is unconscious or having some severe head issues. They believe there's around 40 to 50,000 cases per year. And again, the PDUFA is the 23rd of April, so not that far away. The phase 3 data in the PDUFA demonstrated that it was non-inferior to the current drugs on the market. So an IV treatment of patients with hemorrhaging is different. Right now, there's an oral pill made in it, and that is maybe not the best for people who could be passed out, not able to take oral medication, not being able to swallow. So this is one of the few times where the IV drug might be a better solution to it. Now, I don't expect, the oral drug is fairly cheap. So I think if the person is conscious and they are active, they shouldn't have a problem with it. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. PDUFA, again, 23rd of April, 2026. They will burn around 7 million in that time frame. They have 20 million now. So again, 13 million when we get approval, which is pretty reasonable. So cash situation. The burn rate with full staff will be about 5 million a quarter, and that is without any trials, or 20 million a year. And that is our low point right there. That's what we're looking at. So we're looking at that $20 million number and saying that's what we need to hit to be able to continue. Now there are warrants at about 340 for another 15 million. That gets us almost a year. So a cash raise and approval is definitely still likely since 2 years of sales. And again, we're going into the hospital system, so it is going to be slower. It is going to take a while. So cash plus those 15 million in warrants puts us at 28 million. Really, we would like 40 million to be able to do what we're doing. So around 40 to 50,000 cases a year. They believe that they can hit 40% with 10 sales rep, and they believe they can hit 60% with 25 sales reps. So now, pitfalls. Grace is a small company, and smaller biotech have issues with CRLs and PDUFAs. These CRLs are generally from manufacturing, chemistry, QC, controls, manufacturing. Since this is an IV drug, there are stricter controls for it. And sadly enough, these small cap bio companies have to use the cheapest manufacturing options, which unfortunately leads to more CRLs. That is just the unfortunate part of it. Like you're not going to pay for one of the larger companies to make it because one, they're going to ask for a whole lot, and they're not going to give you that much line time for what you're costing. So you are going, unfortunately, to the cheaper options. This is a major pitfall. Another reason why we want to cash out before the PDUFA. Again, if it doesn't reach that 100 million and it reaches, 70, 80, 90, we might sell more or less to be able to kind of make that work. There definitely will be a cash raise on approval as the company needs 12 million more. That cash raise shouldn't be huge if the stock is sitting at like a $5 or $6 price range. So let's look at the sales. 40 to 50,000 cases a year. The company can believe they can cover 40 to 60% of those cases. So 18,000 to 27,000. 45% of the patients aren't able to take oral medication. And we're just going to use 50% to make it easy for our math. So at 40%, and we're getting half the patients, it's about 9,000 people for it at the lower end. And that is that like 40% with 40K cases and stuff like that. At the higher end, we have 15,000, which is much nicer. The company, of course, is going to have to do that same value analysis committee in the hospitals. This takes months to do. So again, we're going to see sales start very slowly. Now, the drug that it's up against, it's a generic. It's cheap, about $1,400 for retail price. Now, again, we look up there, 45% of the patients aren't able to take it. So there is definitely a cap for it. The question is whether they're going to price it for those 45% patients, or where they're going to price it to try to get the entire market. So cash burn should be about 20 million a year for sales in general. There's no R&D with that. So that would be about 4,000 patients at a 5K price point. I picked that number because, 5K I think is something that you can easily justify going for. And I think that's what we're going to have. And about 4,000 patients is really half of the lower end of patients that we're looking at. So really nice in that situation. The company does have a future after that. So they have GTX for 102. That's for AT. The FDA wants one pivotal trial for it as it's a small population. That is the same stock I will be talking about next. The goal is always to be able to fund your company without dilution. And that's really what you're looking at. So, and that's what we're going to try, because if they can advance this or advance their pipeline without worrying about dilution, stock price goes up. So I am less confident in the 100% gains for this company. It is 50, 100 would be nice. If it gets into like April and it's in the 70, 80 million, I might, of course, sell more shares to get back my initial investment and then kind of roll with the West again, limiting my risk as much as possible, but hopefully maximize my gains. I don't believe there's much of an upside after approval, since it's really going to take a year plus to get through that VAC process. But we're going to be watching the company to see how they do. So, and number 3. So Quince. Quince is another micro cap, $200 million market cap. Now, this stock is probably the reason why I'm trying to get this video out sooner. Because in all honesty, it's already kind of exploding. So I bought in about $1.50, $1.60. I already sold half for profit at $3.20. So I've already taken out my initial investment and said I am good, just because it went from a $100 million market cap to a $200 million cap. That was my 100%. The company expects data in Q1 2026. The last patient is expected in December 2025. And currently, 100% of the patients have started the long-term extension study. We expect cash to go into Q2. Data's in Q1, so we're in pretty good shape. And this is looking at the too far of a future here, but the company would get a rare pediatric disease priority review voucher. That voucher is used by companies to have more insight on something that they are trying to get through approval. They those vouchers generally go for between 80 to 120 million on approval. So that is kind of big. And we would get that voucher, which of course is going to save any cost or all costs that we have there. So again, data is expected in Q1 2026. They originally said February, but they kind of backed off and went back to Q1. So at best case, we'd expect the filing would be done in the second half of 2026. It is a rare disease, so it would get priority approval, which would be 6 months, which will lead to somewhere probably a 2027 approval date. This is not an oral or IV medication. It is a intracellular drug encapsulation device, which is a lot to say, but it does have some things. It's pretty much putting the drug into your blood directly. And yeah, the current treatment is steroids. That's not a suitable long-term treatment for anybody, unfortunately. Like at some point, steroids start to wear you down. The sales opportunity, so they estimated as few as 500 patients to 5,000 in the US. Rare disease pricing would most likely be between 200,000 and 600,000. That is just where the rare diseases kind of hit when we're doing this. 100 patients at 400K would be about 40 million in sales. Now, based on the needed sales staff, which is about 10 to 20 people, which is 1 to 2 per quarter. So if we're looking at math, we're looking at $2 million a quarter for sales. General admin staying at $3 million, and then R&D around 2 to 6. We're just going to call it 6 to make it an easier number. That's 11 million total per quarter, or 44 million, which again is only 110 patients. If they are able to dose people who are older, it's going to open up more of a sales opportunity. So they did have a trial where they did like the 10 plus group, and it improved it, but didn't meet statistical significance. So the FDA said you can make it 6 to 9, but you can have this subgroup over here, and we're going to look at the results. So it might get full approval because there's really nothing else on the market, and we can go from there. Pitfalls. Okay, overall, like I said, previous data set was solid, but it was during COVID. So there is a lot of missing data in it. So the data is solid, but definitely not 100%. There is a competitor whose phase 3 data will also be released in Q1 2026. We have no idea if that drug is going to work. We might see major improvements in the older population, which of course could limit sales. And that's, like I said, the p-value was 0.077. So good, but you need to be below 0.05. So we have to worry about time and getting approval, as we will need cash to get into 2027. Like, that is pretty simple to get to approval. Cash is king, of course. So they're at 26 million at the end of Q3. There's still going to be 1 full quarter of R&D at 8 million plus 3. There's $12 million of debt due in 2026. I think if they get positive data, they can kick that can down the road. They say that cash will go into the second half if all warrants are cashed. There are 8 million warrants at $1.20. So I would expect those to get cashed pretty easily. Company has 55 million shares. So 8 million is not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. The company plans to complete financing in 2026, which would happen after data. So that is what they said. And the company can definitely limit cash burn while filing and could get as low as 5 million a quarter. So if they cut the R&D program, which they will definitely reduce it greatly, we aren't spending a huge amount of cash here. Company will sell the voucher, and if we get the voucher in 2027, it will be sold very quickly, probably within a month or two, because some company will say, hey, I want more regulatory insight, and I'm willing to pay for this. The big companies do normally pay for that kind of stuff. So the future of the company, if we can hit that magic funding threshold, the special threshold that we have, the company has several targets that use the same machine. So at that point, we would be trying to get indications. They've already picked their second target. Obviously, they're going to have to wait until they have enough cash to kind of move into it. If we can hit the magic 300 patients, and that's it, 300. Now, we said there's between 500 and 5,000. So hitting 300 at that $400,000 price point, 120 million a year in sales, which would be easily able to fund the company through everything that they're going through. And then, of course, you add a second indication, you add a third indication, as those patient totals get larger, you could be making almost 400 million a year. This company is so small, we're not even close to there. So overall, pretty advantageous. Conclusion is we've already hit 100% of the stock, but I do believe there's still more room for growth. However, this is more of a long-term play. And I am going to go back in my time machine to 2016 and a company called Catalyst Pharmaceuticals, CPRX. The stock at that point was around 200 million in market cap. They got approval in 2018 for a rare disease drug, and the company took off. So pretty much it's the same type of thing. Like, there is a rare disease. They don't need a lot of staff. They can get good premium pricing. It works. CPRX, from that 200 million in 2016, 2018, is now a $3 billion market cap company. And the sales from that rare disease drug just at 355 million. So I do plan to sell some on data, but I'm definitely going to keep the rest for long term because we might see similar sales with this. If they can get that out into the market, it is great. So that's kind of what we're shooting for. The best of the rest. Okay, so let's talk about stocks that you definitely need to do a little bit more viewing on, but we're going to go ahead with those. It's Inovio Pharmaceuticals is first, a market cap at 150. I already bought it at 134. I did a video when I bought it. I sold it at 50% for 100% profit, so we're good there. Then I sold the rest for 40% profit. So the stock has gone down a little bit, and we'll kind of talk about why that is. And I bought options just to kind of secure my position. We will still be waiting on a priority review. They have enough money to make it to a PDUFA in 6 months. They just completed offering, which gives them that 10-month approval. They will know in December whether or not they have gotten the priority review. And obviously, if they get priority review, that saves them cash. Stock price is going to go up. If they don't get priority review, stock price is going to go down, but it might make it a more attractive buy at that point. So again, we're just going to have to see how it rolls and go from there. And that's really why I bought options. My options are for 250 at December 2025 because I could get options for $5 an option and I could get a lot of them. So if they get priority, I'm going to cash out my position. I'll cash out some of my options, use some of them to get a long position. If they don't, the stock's going to go down. And again, I'm going to think to buying at that point. So part 2. Okay, so PLX, Protalix Biotherapeutics, another market cap of 150 million. My average buy for the company is $1.50. The company has several revenue streams. They have revenue with their main partner. They have revenue with Pfizer. They have revenue from sales in Brazil. The goal of the company is to be able to fund its gout trials. And they're about to start their phase 2. And I am very high on their gout trials. Like, extremely. I think it has just a chance to be the #1 prescribed gout medication. And that is a $1 billion industry right there. However, with only a phase 2, it's going to take several years. So again, we're going to have to look at sales and kind of go from there. Figure out what works best and go from there. Elite Pharmaceuticals, ELTP. So this is one of the best gems I have ever bought. I bought it at 4 cents. It currently is in like 50 cents right now. So beautiful. They've opened up and said they are looking to be acquired. They have people coming in, and I think that is going to be fairly positive for them. I believe the price will be between $1 and $1.50 for that selling price. And when you're looking at that, the company is only worth about 50 cents now. Another 100% gain right there. And the last two we're going to talk about. So Ironwood Pharmaceutical. So market cap of 570 million, bought at 155, already sold for 100% profit. The company has one drug, Linzess, which has a partner and is brought in 120 million in revenue in Q3. So there's another drug that they have in phase 3. FDA wanted a confirmatory trial for it, which will take them about 3 years to get. So it's going to kind of bump up against that Linzess generic timeline. The big part of the stock is that the stock is going to have several million, and I'm thinking 100, 200, 300 million in the bank when Linzess goes to generic. So if they can either find another drug or have this one work, they can go right into it with the amount of cash that they will be having. And then, of course, Spiro Therapeutics. It's a market cap of $135 million. It's bought at $187. The company has a single drug with Merck as a partner. They'll have included several milestone payments in there. These milestones are well known, so we definitely like that very much, that we know exactly what we're going to expect. The NDA is supposed to be submitted anytime now. We're going to get $25 million for that. We expect a 10-month approval for it, and we expect to get $51 million on the first commercial sales, and then an extra $25 million a year after that, along with up to $225 million in sales milestones, up to $1 billion in sales. And some of those sales are like 200, 300, 400 million. Should be an easy bar to cross and should get us some good money. So again, any questions, comments, anything you want me to look up, hey, please let me know. Write it in the comment section below. We are looking to make some money, and that's really all we're trying to do. So I think that is where we are going to end for the day. So thank you very much for watching and listening today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.